whatever the size of your garden, there's always room to grow some fresh herbs, and nothing beats that really good herby flavour in all your cooking indoors. The thing about herbs is that they need different growing conditions. Things like chives and mint, for example, need a lot more moisture at their roots than do things like marjoram and thyme. So this method that I use gives them the water they need if they need it. So all I've done is choose 3 similar pots, and they're all of slightly smaller sizes, a bit like Russian dolls really. And I filled the bottom layer with compost, the big pot, more than half filled with compost, and I firmed that in place quite well. I'm using a standard multi-purpose mix. You could use peat or a peat alternative, but you could also use a John Innes potting compost for better drainage, and the pot will last a lot longer if you use a loam-based compost like John Innes. Then in my second pot, I've also over half filled it with some more compost, and that's designed so that it will actually fit and stand inside the larger pot. I can then take my chives, which need more moisture, and I can plant those in the bottom layer, and all the water will drain down through the different layers in the pots and end up in that bottom pot where I've compacted the compost so it stays as moist as possible. So I can get a good line of chives all the way around in this bottom layer, and that means that I'll have lots of chives to use, because you always need plenty of herbs, and there are certain herbs that you need more of than others, and if you've got lots of chives, they're great for using in salads and things. Then in this next layer up, it's going to be a bit drier because most of the moisture will drain away into this bottom pot. So as I say, this is part filled with that compost mix already, and I can do exactly the same thing again with a smaller pot. Stand that in place, make sure it's firmed well, stand that in place, and then use my marjoram. And I think I can get 3 plants of marjoram around here, fitting them in around that edge between the smaller pot and the medium pot on the outside, and then my top layer can be reserved for something that likes it really dry. Now that could be a mound forming thyme, or something like this sage, which if you give it too much moisture then the flavour of the leaves won't be so good. So putting it in the dry top pot will be ideal. So I'll put some compost in there to take that sage, and then fill in around the sage with plenty more compost, firming it in position, and then it just remains for me to fill in the gaps in all the other layers. There you go, multi-layered herb pot, water the top, and it will all drain down into the bottom where those moisture-loving herbs will really take advantage of it. If you've liked this video, then don't forget to watch my other YouTube videos, and while you're here, don't forget to subscribe to this gardening YouTube channel.